mean, if I just look at our current environment within the academy, and if I look at it from a staffing point of view, and the number of interactions our players would have on a daily basis with performance staff, and what I mean by there might be medical, strength and conditioning coaches, the actual coaching team, which is made up maybe of 2-3 coaches, administration staff. We have a vast array of nationalities working within this environment. We want the best people, so you spread your net as far as possible. And those interactions that the player has every day, and if they're able to converse at times with that player or understand what that member of staff is talking about, and being able to have that short conversation at lunch with that person or by the water dispenser, just aids them in regards to their understanding, their development. As I mentioned earlier, it's very, very competitive environment, and players at times, I think, the same in any environment. I remember back to my days when I was teaching in a group environment, individuals maybe sometimes don't want to put their hand up and go, I didn't really understand that. But therefore, having that confidence sometimes to maybe converse in a different language, or even with teammates. I mean, we have a number of foreign players here, and just helping those people integrate into this environment is a great thing, where a player can actually arrange to go and have a coffee with someone else and converse in that language and say, well, I'm learning Spanish at the moment. But actually, as I mentioned earlier, actually taking that step, that risk to go actually have those conversations with it. And then there are lots of studies out there in regard to the cognitive benefits of learning another language. And I think just the information processing of a player, as I mentioned earlier, players are bombarded with analysis, data, opinions all day long. And actually them being able to fully process it can only be beneficial to them. I mean, in my 6 years here within the full-time program, I've visited many European countries when we brought players in, and my job would be to go over there and help with that transition into that environment. But I mean, I mentioned, as I said, I touched on staff within the academy, but then you have a lot of people outside of that within the commercial element of it, the media side of the club, and our players will undertake media training and develop that skill. The commercial side, as I just mentioned there, but that might be within the club, but also links that they would have with boot deals or whatever it might be, and being able to converse, that opens up a bigger market. They become more marketable themselves if they can actually converse with people throughout the world. We are guilty, I'm sure we are guilty as speaking English as our national language, that we that's what we do. I think sometimes, I should have mentioned this earlier on, I think sometimes players have a perception of languages maybe from school. And what's been great is that kind of their perception of languages there is changed greatly when they undertake the program with International House, in regards to they're talking about something, football, that they feel confident about, and they will converse there. The way that International House developed the program for the player, so that initial assessment, and that gives the tutor the ability to actually set the lessons and set the standard of the where they're going to work. Where we have group settings, of course, there's always that competitiveness between our players, because that's a skill that they've developed. Being an athlete, they want to compete, they want to be the best in regards to that element of it. But yeah, I mean, as it's mentioned lots of times, it's a global game, and it is a global game, and you just look at every night of the week, there's a game of football televised, and it's all over the world. I mean, I'm getting on a bit now, and I can remember the FA Cup final being the only game that you would see once a year live on the television, and now every night of the week, and games from all over the world.